Hello everyone. This is a video response to a query I got. I got an email from Jonathan, and he asked me, and I will read this to you, his query. He says, "Hi Bo, I'm brand new to the game, been playing 40k for a few years, but want to change. I really like your videos. There isn't much else on YouTube with tactical discussions of bold action. There's only one in my gaming group who plays BA, so I've got no one to bounce ideas off." Remember this. This is a problem. Bold action is a growing community, but relative to 40k and Games Workshop, we are a small community, so we're going to have to stick together. I've been reading up on bold action rules. I want to put a list together. I've been trying to create a mobile force which is very short range but packs a punch. I love this. This is what I do most of the time. I've attached a few lists that I've been thinking about. They're very similar: trucks and small squads. That's the way to go if you want to run mobile units. So I mostly prefer the list with 2 forward observers. Ooh, we're going to have to talk about that one. As I'd love to be able to put down 2 big 12-inch circles of smoke to split the battlefield in 2. Or we're also going to have to talk about that one. So that I can use the mobility of the trucks to hit one side of the enemy and remain hopefully out of sight from their other threats. I use 2 lieutenant in it, so I can snap 2-5 of my units if I want. If I pull out a dice when I want it. But I've not played, so this is a guy who hasn't even had his first introduction game. So I wanted to see what you thought before I was buying models. Do you think it could work? Right. So Jonathan, I'll go through your lists and talk about what can and cannot work. I'll say this up front: smoke. We all want it to work really well. It's not really that good, mainly because it's very unpredictable. And the forward observers are very expensive. They cost 100 points each, which is a full unit of infantry. So for something that is not very dependable, that is a lot of points you're spending. That's 200 points that you're spending out of what is typically 1,000-point armies. So with that, that doesn't work so well. But I'll talk you guys through what Jonathan is proposing here, and maybe I can give him some hints about what works and what doesn't. So, but I'm going to have to share my screen in order to do this well. So I'll do this here. So he's thinking about running a generic reinforced platoon. This is the way to go if you want to go to most events. Most tournaments will not allow theater selectors, simply because the theater selectors are, some of them are overpowered. So all of a sudden, my terrace here became very dark. I think it's going to rain. Anyways, they're not like balanced. But you guys can also see, right? Waffen-SS late war, 141 points. This is a mistake that I see many people make. One thing, if you want to run Germans, which you can do, but you should be wary of running all veterans, because they are so expensive, and they are they're not the best infantry you can get. So just from looking at what you sent me, Jonathan, here you're spending a lot of points on stuff that isn't necessarily very good, especially the combination of assault rifles. Did you have assault? Yeah, you have assault rifles. Oh, well, you are splitting them up. I do like that. So we have 2 units here with assault rifles and 2 units here with rifles and LMG. Now, I want the LMG to be good. I really do. It isn't. And I'm not sure you're going to need double Panzerfausts. These LMG units, they will typically be units that you're keeping in your own half of the table. in cover where they will sit there and they will deliver shots from range. And in that case, you don't need double Panzerfausts. You need a single Panzerfaust to threaten enemy armor away from you. Double Panzerfausts is typically something you'll see with units that go hunting for enemy armor. And you can see this in your own other units here, the push units, the assault rifle units, which are good. Don't get me wrong, assault rifles are really good, but they are also very expensive. And you have 4 Panzerfausts in the unit. I don't think you need that many. I think what you can do instead is run assault engineers with a flamethrower and a few Panzerfausts. So like cut out one of these assaulty units, put assault engineers and a flamethrower in that instead. That will do well, especially if you want to push with a truck rush. Now, the higher ranking officers are cool. You can do a lot of what you were talking about with the Snap 2. But for me, the Snap 2 is really professional played. It's really difficult to get to work decently, especially when you're in trucks, because your lieutenant, everything has to be on the board. The lieutenant can only snap 2 units that are on the actual board, which means that sitting in trucks, you can't actually snap 2 them. So it's going to be difficult to get it to work. So I think I would cut out the high-ranking officer. Sorry. Here comes the Pioneers. I think you should have 2 of these Air Pioneer units. Oh, you do have 2 here in 1 platoon here. And trucks with pintle-mounted MMGs. Yes. Can this work? Yes. You're going to find that running the truck rush army is sort of difficult. It's not something that I would recommend to a new player. I would recommend playing around with different levels of experience and maybe also different types of units, some with all rifles, some with assault rifles, some with SMGs. Because I'm not even sure you need the assault rifles. You can really do a lot with SMGs. And I think I would recommend that you go and look at some armored vehicles, tanks. Germany has a lot. They're not all of them good, but the box standard Panzer III Aus G is pretty good and pretty cheap for what it does. So Panzer III, I would buy one of those and then just buy a large box of plastic German infantry. I would equip a lot more of them with rifles than what you have here. And I would make sure that you magnetize the Panzerfausts if you can, so that you can sort of stick them on models as you need them. That is the way I would go here. Starting out with veterans, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. I like and use veterans myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the dice count is also a bit low. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff here. There's also a lot of things that I see many beginning players do. Relatively low dice count, a lot of points invested in equipment, whereas competitive players invest more in bodies typically. Yeah, so that was the first list. Let's check out the other lists. I guess it's this one. That was also, oh yeah, here we have it. Again, generic reinforced platoon, that's good. Again, we have the Waffen SS, assault rifles, 2, 3 of those units. That's pretty good. If you want to push, yes, these are pushy units. Although I do think that if you're running them in trucks, you should notice that the trucks can actually take a lot more men than just the 5 men. So you're actually wasting points on empty seats in the trucks. So I think most of the trucks have a 12-man capacity, and I think you should fill them up if you possibly can. The artillery observers, we've already talked about them. They are not worth 100 points. If you got them for maybe 50, 60 points, then they would be worth it. For 100, no. I would never try to use them to deliver smoke. It's way better, and I do this all the time. I run truck armies a lot. I use them to deliver pins to the enemy. So what you do is you find the place where you want to assault, where most of the enemy is clumped up, and then you place the artillery observers barrage in as much of the middle as you can. Then when it comes down, then you rush as soon as it comes down. The turn that it comes down, you rush your trucks up, you get out, and you start shooting down stuff. That's the way to do it. Because when it comes down, it has a 6 plus d6 inch range, and all that is within range will at least be pinned. So that is really good. Smoke, not so much. Again, you're spending a lot of points on making this a dual platoon, and I don't really see the need for running this as a dual platoon if you're not going to run double forward observers, which I don't think you should. Especially not as a newer player. I don't think this is worth it. The Hare Pioneers, definitely worth it. And a lot of trucks is also worth it. But I think I would cut out the forward observers and use the points on something else. Again, though, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 order dice. 13 order dice is more on the point. So yeah, I also like this second list more because you're not spending points on LMGs, but I still think you're going to struggle in your first games. However, I also think you're going to have fun with it. I think at one point you should make one of your models into sort of an officer type, and then use him for a forward observer just to try it out in one game. But I don't think it's worth it. And I definitely think buying the cheapest lieutenants that you can get away with is the way to go initially. So yeah, that was basically my my feedback for Jonathan. I hope you can use this for something, Jonathan. A lot of my channel is, of course, dedicated to competitiveness and to tournament player bold action. But I really do enjoy when beginners reach out to me and say, what do you think I should do? I think you should buy a huge box of plastic Germans, equip most of them with rifles, some of them with SMGs and assault rifles, and then the magnetized Panzerfausts. I don't think you should buy 4 trucks. I think you should start out with 2, and then buy a Panzer III and see where that takes you. So that would be my advice to start out Germans. Oh, and by the way, get yourself a mortar, medium mortar. That's really good. And you can always, if you're buying one of those plastic, by the way, if you're buying one of those plastic kits of Germans, you can build almost anything from those guys. You can build your forward observer. You can build whatever you want. Extra men for your artillery to make them heavy mortars instead. You can make platoon commanders. All kinds of stuff. You can make snipers. In most of the boxes, you get sniper rifles also. So you can make small sniper teams, which I also think would be a good idea to start out with and play around with how to do snipers. So yeah, that was it. Thank you so much, and cheers.